For the most part, I just use regular tap water, straight from tap. Some people suggest you let it sit for a few hours to dechlorinate, and I don't know, other reasons. If it's safe enough for you to drink, it's safe enough for you to water your cacti. Obviously, if you have unfiltered or untreated water, like in Flint, Michigan, with lead, and maybe in the Amazon with river water, and in India with that river that people bathe in and everything. Obviously, don't use those waters, but even then, people drink it. Sure, they have problems, but a majority of them build up immunities, and so would your plant. Now, let's take a greenhouse plant and water it with tap water or those other waters. Obviously, it might suffer some health problems, but it should adapt sooner or later since water is essential. Oh, what about all the salts and stuff? Well, mineral water or spring water will naturally also have those slight contaminants. Obviously, if you have the means, use better quality water, either buying it or some other form. And yeah, just that. You can use any type of water as long as you would drink it yourself. It's perfectly fine for your cacti. This is, oh, and like going back to the subject, I am not a commercial grower. I'm sure that commercial hydroponics growers will have issues with tap since the ppm might be a little high, but the issue with that is because they're gonna add nutrients directly to the water, and that would cause probably a salt overbuild or something in the pH and everything. But cacti are pretty self-reliant, and they will adapt to different watering and soil conditions and everything. In a paper that it took a while for me to find, but I wanted to know what would happen, or how a plant in general would behave if it had access to unlimited water. Not unsimilar to hydro, but similar to this, where they have access to unlimited water, but the nutrients would be in the soil. Even if the soil is dry, plants self-regulate, and they would bring the water up from the roots, either through a mucous membrane like this, you can kind of see it, and they would actually moisten the soil where it has nutrients so that it can uptake it. Okay, let's see what else I can comment on water. And I think that's pretty it. I think that obviously cacti can survive drought conditions. That's their adaptation with CAM photosynthesis. But especially during the summer, overwatering is very essential, especially in very hot regions or desert regions, since the water, similar to us, they would self-regulate the temperatures, and anything pretty much over 80 Fahrenheit is actually hot for most cacti, as strange as that sounds. And some places are reaching like 100, and some greenhouses, people forget to open it, they reach 50 Celsius. Even here, I get 50 surface temperature. So I tend to water a bit excessively, especially in the hot, direct sun, since I would want the cacti to self-regulate their temperatures. Oh, what about splitting of the cacti? I have never had that issue when using mineral soil mix. Even if you were to use some organic material, the splitting, in my opinion, is actually from excessive nitrogen or the nutrients in general. The cactus will not split from overwatering alone. And any excess water, it will just transpire it. And it would also just not drink up the water. Like in this case, it's not constantly drinking up the water. And yeah, I'm kind of ranting a bit, but if you have any more questions on my opinion on water usage and water sources, I guess, just post a message, and hope you enjoyed the content. Alright, I see lots of people also saying, oh, you need to use filtered water and everything. This has filtered water in UV light to kill even more bacteria. You would obviously want to use natural water. It'll still be cold due to the time of the year, but this is also excessive, since most people think that rainwater is the only water they should use. Considering how most rainwater is collected, there will be lots of microbes and bacteria, especially if you don't use it after a couple of hours or a few days. It'll just grow and multiply. And some rainwater, I doubt people would drink out of their retainer. Okay, so obviously this is a joke, just to prove a point that any water works fine as long as it's pretty sanitary. This toilet was cleaned with Clorox and flushed a few times, but the reason I showed this is just because this is essentially tap water. And tap water anywhere else would be deemed sanitary enough to drink. Oh, one more thing I just remembered about water. A very low amount of salt is actually essential for all life, including plants. Obviously, salt water from the beach would be too concentrated and would kill almost all of them from dehydration, since the water content would actually pull the water out. But other than that, a very small amount of salt will not kill your plants. For those in beach coastal regions, you will get a salty breeze even if you don't want it. And in most rocks and minerals, there's salts naturally also. And chlorine from the water, a very small amount, also is not an issue, since it will not bleach the plants. Obviously this is minuscule amounts. I think the concentration, it's like 2 milligrams per liter, or 2 milliliters of chlorine per liter. And yeah, so if you use rainwater, make sure it's actually collected cleanly and not using old like uncleaned gutters, which will have lots of dirt and other pests and bacteria, as it will multiply and will also cause problems, just like using unclean water sources. Tap water, like it or not, is safe to drink. Some people are scared of like the fluorine and other things, but in general it's safe to drink. And I think that's it. One more. Reverse osmosis and like super like distilled water will have 0 minerals, and unless you add them yourself with a fertilizer or some other source, your plants will slowly deteriorate. Most soils will have it either way, but if you're using a completely mineral, no organic, and your cactus can't exactly break down the minerals inside a rock, it will slowly have some lockouts for nutrients and miners. So distilled water, I personally would never use. And nurseries, obviously they promote rainwater, but I think at least that's more of like a financial thing, since rainwater would be free depending on your state, since collecting rainwater in some places is not as legal or regulated. And yeah, like in a commercial sense, rainwater would be free, and you would have to use the rest of your water would be tap water or municipal water, and that would cost more than just using free rainwater. Rainwater does have like nitrogen and a few miners, but if you live in like in a city or close to the city, it will have smog and other contaminants. So for me, I've never used rainwater since I can't really collect it. And tap water has always been fine. Maybe not the best, but it's not a problem. Okay. Streams and rivers also have runoff from excessive fertilizing, and they've even found microplastic in new ice in Antarctica. So everyone that's like super critical about water is, in my opinion, just overestimating, overstating something. But again, obviously, if you have the means, use the cleanest water available to yourself. Either buying distilled, or not distilled, buying spring water or some other form, but tap water in most regions of the world is completely fine.